Ciao a tutti, benvenuti o bentornati al mio canale Learn Italian for Travel. Sono Danielle, la vostra insegnante di italiano. E come state oggi? Tutto bene? Benissimo, anch'io sto bene oggi. Allora, cominciamo con la lezione. So, today's lesson is going to be on adjectives. Adjectives are a concept that usually they're introduced in the beginning of when you start to study Italian, and I realized that I had never done a complete video explaining adjectives, so I'm going back to do that right now, okay? So let's talk about what they are in terms of grammar, which I'm sure you already know, that adjectives describe nouns, right? Adjectives describe people, places, or things. So we use them all the time in speech, right? So as you know, if you've been studying Italian, or maybe you're just starting to study right now, everything has to agree in Italian. So that means the adjective has to agree in gender and number with the noun that it describes. And that's where it makes them a little bit more complicated than they are in English. So in English, we just have number, meaning we have either a singular noun or a plural noun, right? And in English, when we use an adjective to describe plural nouns, we don't have to modify the adjective in order to fit that description. Like we would just say a red house or red houses. Red is an adjective. But in Italian, you're going to have to make that red change to a plural to agree with houses. And then moreover, in Italian, as you probably know by now, there's also gender of nouns. So that is going to influence the ending of the adjective as well, okay? So what I want to do first of all is I want to show you a list of adjectives, okay, that I wrote down on my handy little whiteboard here. And I wrote these down because these are cognate adjectives. These are adjectives that are similar to the words in English. And I've said this before, but in Italian there are many cognates, many similar words to the English word. So you can already tell what these mean just by looking at them. And I divided them into two categories. Notice this first category, they all end in O, and the second category, they all end in E. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But for now, let's just go through the list, and the pronunciation obviously is going to be different in Italian, but I know that you're going to be able to identify what these adjectives mean in English just by looking at them. So, numero uno, ripetete, contento. And that means happy, content, right? Numero due, onesto. Now it's missing the H, but the word means honest, and it sounds the same, right? Numero tre, generoso. It looks like generous, esatto. La prossima, timido. Timido is timid, shy, sì. Molto bene. So now let's look at the adjectives that are in purple over here, okay, that are also cognates. Continuate a ripetere la parola, va bene? Intelligente is smart or intelligent, giusto? Numero due, interessante, interesting, sì. Tre, difficile, difficile, difficult. Some of these might be a little bit harder, like difficile doesn't look exactly like difficult, but you might be able to have seen the similarities there. Importante. Importante, that one looks a lot more like the English word important, just adding an E in Italian. And the last one, indipendente. Indipendente, same thing, just add an E and you have the English word. So I hope as you're studying Italian that you feel like you're sort of like a detective trying to find these similar words, these cognates, and trying to make sense from your knowledge of English or your knowledge of Spanish, other words. There are actually a lot more cognates between Spanish and Italian, so if you know Spanish, that's going to help you as well, okay? So the reason why I put these adjectives into two different categories with the O and the E ending is because I want you to think of the adjectives being separated into two different groups. The group in orange here is going to have 4 different choices of ending, okay? And that means that it's influenced by the noun, whether the noun is singular or plural. That's going to influence how the adjective ends, and whether it's feminine or masculine. So that's 4 choices right there. And we'll go over in a little bit what those choices exactly are. But just remember, orange, if it's masculine ending in an O, it has 4 choices of ending. A lot more difficult than in English, I know, more complicated. And then these adjectives over here that end in an E, they only have 2 choices of an ending, either singular or plural. Okay, so the E ending, they're actually a little bit easier. So andiamo avanti. So now I'm going to give you some more adjectives that are not cognates, that are not similar words, and I introduced them as pairs of opposites, so you could see what they mean juxtaposed next to each other. And so I want to say here too that most of the time in Italian, the adjective is going to follow the noun, okay, which is not like what we do in English. In English, we say, like the example I gave earlier, the red house. Red is an adjective, colors are adjectives, and that precedes house, which is the noun. Well, in Italian, you would say the house red. Red would go after the noun, okay? But there is actually a group of adjectives in Italian that generally precede the noun. And so I'm going to show you those in just a minute. So with these adjectives now that I'm giving you, I'm showing you some of them that generally precede the noun, not all of them. I haven't included all of the adjectives that precede the noun, but these are probably some of the most often used. And then I'm also giving you some other adjectives that you're going to see commonly used, okay? So the first group in blue are the adjectives that generally are going to go in front of the noun, okay? So di nuovo, ripetete. So repeat after me, okay? Bello. And then the opposite, il contrario, brutto. Okay? Bello means handsome. Brutto means the opposite of handsome, which is not handsome. Okay? Poi, piccolo, grande. Piccolo, small. Okay, grande is big, and it looks like grand, big. It's also the same word in Spanish. Poi, buono, cattivo. Buono is good. Cattivo is the opposite, is bad or naughty. Okay? E poi, giovane, not Giovanni. Giovanni is a guy's name. Giovane is the accent with on the first syllable, and that means young. Vecchio, old. Okay, so that's the contrast of opposites there. So notice how all of these, notice how most of these, the accent falls on the second to the last syllable, which is the rule for Italian pronunciation. Bello, brutto, piccolo, però that one doesn't follow the rule. The accent's on the first syllable. Grande, buono, cattivo. Giovane also does not follow the rule. Vecchio, that IO at the end is sort of blended, so it does follow the rule. But with the rules of pronunciation, unfortunately in Italian, there are not a lot of accents written. And so you're just going to have to get used to learning these rules of pronunciation with time if the accent defies the rule, okay? So then there's some more adjectives down here that now these in black they're going to follow the noun. These precede the noun, these follow the noun, okay? But these are also pairs of opposites and commonly used. So ripetete, simpatico, antipatico. So the accents on both of those two is on the third to the last syllable. Simpatico, antipatico, okay? And that means nice, the opposite of nice, not nice. Okay? Poi, felice, triste. Felice, triste. Poi l'ultimo gruppo, energico, stanco. Energico is energetic, stanco is the opposite, is tired, okay? So now you have a lot of adjectives under your belt that you can use. You know how to say intelligent, you know how to say handsome, you know how to say interesting, you know how to say nice, okay? So now let's talk about the rules for transforming just that singular masculine adjective to describe whoever you want to describe. So we're going to look again at those two groups, the first group that they all ended in O, and then the second group where they all ended in E. Okay, here's my handy little chart to describe to you what you're going to do with all of these adjectives. So I divided the quadrants up like this. Mas is masculine, fem, feminine, sing is singular, pl is plural. Okay, so in orange, these are the adjectives. You're actually going to see these most of the time. The adjectives that end in O and then have 4 choices of ending. Those are the most common, okay? So if it ends in O in the masculine form, when you make it plural, the ending is going to change to I. For the feminine form, if it ends in A in the feminine singular, then when you make it plural, the ending is going to be in an E. So let's take one of the adjectives that we saw out of all the adjectives that we just looked at. Bello, okay? If we say bello ending in O, that's going to describe one man or a guy. If we say belli ending in an I, that's going to describe a group of all guys or guys and girls mixed. Because when there's men and women, girls and guys in a group, the ending of the adjective is going to take the masculine plural form. If we say bella, that's going to describe a one woman or a girl. And then if we say belle, that's going to describe a group of all women or all girls. Okay, those 4 choices. Okay, so then we have here in purple the masculine and feminine adjectives that end in E, like we saw in that list. Intelligente, okay, that can describe either a man or a woman. We would say lei è intelligente, lui è intelligente. It has the same ending. And then if you make it plural, the E changes to an I in both cases. So like I said before, those adjectives ending in E in the singular form only have 2 choices, singular and plural. There's no gender involved, okay? So if you've looked at nouns already, you notice that these are the exact same rules that we have for the nouns, which makes it really easy, right? It's the exact same thing. So when you think about nouns and you think about the gender and number and all of that, the adjectives do the exact same thing and you just apply those same rules, okay? Va bene. So now we're going to take one of those adjectives that we saw ending in O, and I just gave you that example with bello, but now I'm going to show you it written down with the adjective timido, okay? Timid, shy, okay? So we would write it like this. If we want to say she is shy or timid, lei è timida, ending in an A. Lui è timido, ending in an O. Gianna e Fabia sono timide, ending in an E because it's describing 2 girls or 2 women. And then Franco e Marco sono timidi. Franco and Marco are 2 guys, and so the ending is going to be an I. That's the masculine plural, okay? Va bene. Now we'll talk about the adjectives that end in E and what they do. So now we're going to take the adjective giovane, which means young, okay? And these are the 4, actually only 2 possibilities. We've got lei è giovane, lui è giovane, because there's no gender distinction when it ends in E. So you're going to use the same singular adjective for both a guy and a girl. She is young, he is young. And then we have Gianna e Fabia sono giovani. And Franco e Marco sono giovani. Even though these are 2 girls and these are 2 guys, this is the feminine plural and the masculine plural, but there's no distinction with gender with these adjectives that end in an E, so they have the same ending, which is just I. Va bene? So now what I want to talk about are a little tricks about certain adjectives, okay? So Adjectives that end in ca, go, or ga, you are always going to add an h in the plural. So sometimes adjectives that end in co, you add an h to, but not all of the time. And the rule is if the accent falls on the third to the last syllable, you're not going to add an H. And if it doesn't, then you do add an H, okay? So let me show you a couple of examples. L'esempio è simpatico. Simpatico meaning nice, okay? So if we said she is nice, lei è simpatica. And remember, I've said this before, but the subject pronoun is not necessary. I'm just doing it here so you know exactly who I'm talking about. Because if we said è simpatica, it would be obvious that we're talking about she because of the ending of the adjective. And if we say lui è simpatico, he is nice, that's ending in an O. So simpatica for she, simpatico for he, okay? The next one, Gianna e Fabia sono simpatiche. So here we had to add that H to retain that hard sound. We want to keep that hard K sound there, okay? So simpatiche with the H. But in the plural masculine form, when we're talking about two guys, Franco e Marco sono simpatici, we don't add the H. And that's because, like I said, the rule is if the accent is on the third to the last syllable, then you don't need to add an H in the masculine plural form. And in that word simpatico, it's on simpatico, the third to the last syllable. Va bene? Let me show you one where you do add an H. Allora, l'aggettivo adesso è stanco, okay? So if we want to say she is tired, lei è stanca. He is tired, lui è stanco. Two girls that are tired, Gianna e Fabia sono stanche with the H. And then two guys that are tired, Franco e Marco sono stanchi, also with an H, because the accent now is not on the third to the last syllable, it's on the second to the last syllable, stanchi. Okay? How is everybody doing? I know all of these little things are difficult, but with time you'll remember and you'll understand, and then it'll just become second nature to add the H in certain instances and not in others. And remember, this applies as well to adjectives that end in a GO or a GA, although those are not as common as adjectives that end in a CO, okay, or a CA. So let's talk about nationalities, because nationalities are adjectives too. So most of the time with nationalities, they're going to be similar to the country. You'll be able to look at the nationality and know the country of origin, okay? Per esempio, if you want to say American, in Italian, the adjective is americano, okay? So americano is not capitalized like it is in English, though you don't capitalize nationalities. But notice that it ends in O, so you're going to have four choices of endings, whether you're talking about a girl, a guy, a group of all girls, or a group of all guys, or mixed company, okay? And then, because we're studying Italian, you need to know how to say Italian. And that one looks like Italy too, Italia, Italiano, okay? Again, ending in O, it has four different choices. And then we live near Mexico, but there's no X in the Italian alphabet, so instead it's replaced by S's in Italian. Messicano, Messicano, con due S. And again, four choices of endings. And then our country also borders Canada. So this is a different ending. It's not ano like the rest, but if you say Canadian, it's canadese. Canadese. I was actually born in Canada, so I can't say I'm canadese though because I have an American passport now. But it ends in an E, so you know there's only two choices now, singular or plural. And then I want to show you one nationality though that looks nothing like the country that it's from. So when you see this, you'll know what we're talking about. Tedesco is German, but it looks nothing like German or Germania, which is how we say the country in Italian. But Tedesco is German, the nationality. Va bene? And really quickly, the last group of adjectives that we're going to talk about are colors, because like I said, colors are adjectives. And just so you know, there are many other adjectives too that I'm not including in this video. So I encourage you to have another resource that you can find where you can have a list of a ton more adjectives. Like my book, The ABCs of Italian Travel, I include a lot more adjectives, or if you have access to things online. So get as many new vocabulary words as you can, and then learn how to use them. So here we've got some colors, okay? These are just the basic colors that I thought off the top of my head, okay? So ripetete: bianco, white; nero, black; rosso, red; verde, green; giallo, yellow; grigio, gray; azzurro is like a sky blue, okay? All of these in black are going to always agree with the gender and number of the noun. The adjectives over here in blue are called invariable. That means that they're not going to change form. So blue is going to stay blue whether you're talking about a singular, a plural, a masculine, or a feminine noun. Va bene? So that's true for all of these. So blue is more like a dark blue, okay? Navy. Rosa is pink. So contrast rosso and rosa. The S's sound different. Soft sound, hard Z sound, because there's only one S. Arancione is orange. Marrone, brown. And viola, purple. Okay? Benissimo. And I'm going to end the video here like I usually do with a little quiz for you, okay? Just a short quiz so you can make sure that you've digested and integrated all of this material. The last thing I forgot to tell you before I give you this quiz is that if you make the sentence negative, you're going to put non right in front of the verb conjugation. So in this video, I didn't get into all of the conjugations of essere, but you're always going to use essere with descriptive adjectives, always, okay? So there's another video that I have on essere, including all of the conjugations of essere. For this video, I only did the third person singular and the third person plural of essere, e and sono. So if you make the sentence negative then, and if you choose to use the subject pronoun, that comes first, non, and then the conjugation of the verb, okay? Non always comes right before the verb conjugation. Ok, siete pronti per il quiz? Allora, numero uno. Come si dice? She is smart. Again, pause the video so I don't make this extra long, because I know this is going to be a long video. And then you can think about it, write it down, and then I'll tell you the answer. Lei è intelligente. Lei è intelligente. How did you do? Bravi. Okay, numero due. He's not shy. Lui non è timido. Lui non è timido. But again, you don't have to include that lui, because if I say timido, we know that we're talking about a guy. Has to be a guy because of that O ending. Non è timido. Numero tre, she's happy. And there are two ways to say happy. I don't know if you caught this during the video. See if you can think of both. Lei è contenta. You could also say lei è felice. And then you could get rid of the lei and just say è contenta o è felice. Benissimo. Numero 4. Gianna e Fabia are unkind. I'm just going to put the pronoun associated with they instead of saying their names again. Loro sono antipatiche. Sono antipatiche. Did you remember the H? Benissimo. E l'ultimo, Fabio and Marco are honest. Again, I'm just going to replace their names with loro, they. Loro sono onesti. Benissimo. So I didn't give you any nouns in the quiz to remember the placing, which adjectives went in front of the noun, and just that small group, and then the rest that go behind the noun. But just know that if you have a noun in the sentence, you can choose between one or the other, but there's just a small group that goes in front of the noun, okay? Allora, grazie per essere venuti alla lezione. Thanks so much for coming to the lesson. I hope that it helped you. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, subscribe to the channel and you'll get new videos whenever I make them. Buona giornata a tutti voi e buono studio. Ci vediamo presto. Ciao!